Mr. Chair, we're live.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Ajax Committee of Adjustments meeting for this Wednesday, June the 25th, 2025. This meeting of the Committee of Adjustments is being held in person in Council Chambers at Ajax Town Hall and is being live streamed on the internet pursuant to the Committee of Adjustments terms of reference and meeting procedures. If we encounter any technical difficulties, we may take a brief recess while they are resolved, and thank you in advance for your patience. We'll now proceed with the meeting. For those of us joining us in person this evening, and I see it's a relatively full room, so that's awesome. If you haven't already done so, I will ask you that you complete the sign-up sheet at the podium right there if you wish to speak to any application. You don't have to do that if you're not here to speak either for or against an application. Please include your email address where we can then forward you the minutes of the meeting as well. And I'll now like to call this meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. I'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territories of the Mississaugas, more specifically the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, and the signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the William Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to always be home to the Indigenous people. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Before moving on to the application portion of the meeting, I'd like to confirm whether there are any disclosures of interest from members of committee. Amanda, which application?
It's for A1925.
A1925, okay. Bernadette?
Item D, minor variance application A18-25 for 64 Rumbello Crescent.
Okay, noted. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, so I've noted those, and we'll note those as we go through the application process. I'd now like to look for a motion from committee members to adopt the meeting minutes from last month. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the minutes from last meeting.
Okay, and that'll be for the May meeting. Can I get a seconder on that? Bernadette? Any discussion on the motion? Okay, then I'll look for a vote. And the vote has been carried, and the meeting minutes from the previous meeting, the May meeting, have now been carried. A little bit more administrative stuff, folks. So the Committee of Adjustments derives its jurisdiction and authority from the Planning Act. The committee is responsible for considering applications which seek to authorize the following: minor variances from the provisions of the town zoning bylaw, extensions, enlargements, or variations of the legal non-conforming use of any land, building, or structure, permitting the use of any land, building, or structure for any purpose that, in the opinion of the committee, conforms with the provisions of the zoning bylaw, where the uses permitted in the zoning bylaw are defined in general terms, consent to sever a new lot from an existing lot, consent to alter the existing boundaries of a lot, such as lot additions and lot line adjustments, consent to register rights of way and easements over land, consent to sell, mortgage, charge, or enter into any agreement for more than 21 years for a portion of land, and validation of land title where there has been an error in the description of the land. When considering minor variances, the committee is to assess whether the general intent and purpose of both the Town of Ajax official plan and zoning bylaw is being maintained, the proposal is desirable for the appropriate development and or use of the subject land, building, or structure, and, of course, that the variance is minor in nature. When considering consents, the committee must ensure proposals conform to the Region of Durham and the Town of Ajax official plans and have regard to the matters outlined under the Planning Act. In all scenarios, the committee must ensure consistency with the in effect provincial policy statements and conformity with the in effect provincial plans. The procedure for tonight's meeting will be conducted in the following manner. The applicant and/or agent will be called upon and will be asked to provide a brief description of the minor variance and/or consent application that they have applied for. The committee members may ask questions of the applicant and/or agent, after which anyone with a direct interest in the application will be given the opportunity to speak either for or against the application. Once a motion is put forward by a committee member, there will be no further input from the applicant or the agent or anyone else that has interest in the application. After a decision is made, notice will be sent out, and there will be a 20-day appeal period. Pardon me. The decision of the committee may be appealed to the Ontario Line Tribunal, and that's the OLT, by the applicant or a specified person or a public body as outlined in the Planning Act. Please note that third-party appeals, i.e. appeals from neighbors, etc., are not permitted. The decision will become final and binding if no appeals are received during the 20-day appeal period. If a building permit or other approvals are required, they may be filed during the appeal period, that 20 days period. However, no permits will be issued until the appeal period is over and that the decision becomes final and binding. A respectful decorum during this evening's proceedings is expected of all present at all times. And now I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to the committee members presiding over the procedures this evening. Starting from my furthest right in the blue is Bernadette Santiago, Ken Elliott in the beautiful yellow. In the striped shirt, I've got Amanda. To my right is Tamas Baca. I'm the chair of the committee, Wasif Ahmed. To my left is town staff. I've got our AV superstars, and then followed by Eric Simpson and Henry Singh from our planning department, and also secretary treasurer of the Committee of Adjustments. We'll now move on to, for what we're all here, which is the agenda and the application portion of tonight's events. And the first application is the consent application, LD 0925. And do I have anybody here to speak either in person or virtually for this application, LD 09? This is for submitted by Lakeshore Group on behalf of Pigments Canada Real Estate. Anybody in the audience here today? Virtual? Sir, if you're, or ma'am, if you're able to unmute yourself and just let us know that you're here. And this is for LD 0925.
Hello, Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Good evening. That's Michael Cidello.
Yep, correct. I am the applicant and agent for the property owner.
Okay. Good evening, Michael. And just before I hand over the floor to you to maybe give us a quick briefing on what the initiative is doing, can I just ask town staff whether notice was served on this application and whether any responses were received?
Mr. Chair, notice was served and there was no responses received.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Eric. All right, Michael, so I'll give you the floor. If you could maybe just tell us a little bit about your project.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, good evening, Mr. Chair, committee members. This is a consent application at 445 Finley Avenue. We are seeking to sever the northwestern corner of this property. It's just under a hectare, 0.89 hectares. And the purpose is just because it is access to the owner's needs and pretty straightforward from there. We've met with regional staff, we've met with municipal staff and have come to agreements on the imposed conditions. So I have no issues with those. Otherwise, I think it's a fairly straightforward severance and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Okay, and just before I look to committee for any of their questions, I do want to acknowledge Michael and everybody here in the audience as well, that the committee is in receipt of a town staff report that the planning team has put together that does recommend approval of the consent application, subject to 4 conditions. and I'll quickly read them out for the benefit of everybody. That the owner applicant submit a deposited reference plan, the 40R plan that confirms to the dimensions of the proposed severed and retained parcels, that any zoning non-compliances result from proposed severance be brought into compliance, that the owner applicant submit a site screening questionnaire and or phase 1 environmental site assessment and phase 2 environmental site assessment as if required to the satisfaction of the town, that the owner applicant satisfy the conditions and requirements, financials and otherwise, of all external agencies and government authorities. Michael, can I make the assumption that you're okay? You've read all 4 of these conditions before and you're okay with them?
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. So now I'll look to my fellow committee members to see if they have any questions. Okay, no, nothing here. And then I'll look for anybody in attendance in the audience if they have anybody want to speak either for or against this application, LD 0925. This is for 445 rather, Finley Avenue. Okay, got a quiet bunch in here. All right, so if there's nothing there, then I'll look for a motion from committee members. Amanda?
Through the chair, I move that, having reviewed the staff report, that application LD 0925 be approved, subject to the conditions contained within the staff report, as the proposal complies with Section 5124 of the Planning Act and all applicable policies and plans affecting the subject lands.
Okay, noted, thank you. Can I get a seconder on that? Ken?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, noted. Any discussion on the motion as presented? Okay, seeing none, then I'll look for a vote, please. And the vote has been carried, Michael. So LD 0925 has been approved at this meeting for Committee of Adjustments. It'll now be subject to the 30-day appeal period, as you're well aware. And again, if there's anything that needs to be submitted in the meantime, you can. Thank you for being here. Thanks for walking us through.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Have a good one. Have a good evening. Okay, so moving along, we've got our second request, Land Division Committee request. This is for LD10, application LD 1025, submitted by MHBC on behalf of Hollywood Holdings Limited for consent to establish easements to accommodate the development of the subject lands consisting of lands municipally known as 1257 Westney Road North and the abutting vacant lots fronting on Sab Crescent, I believe it's pronounced. Is the applicant here for this application either physically or virtually?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, can I maybe just get you to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Opani Mudalige, and I'm the agent, MHBC representative agent.
Okay. Good evening. Can I call you Opani? Is that okay?
That is fine.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Apani. Welcome, and thank you for being here. Apani, before I hand over the floor to you to perhaps walk us through the application and the project itself and what the LD10 is seeking, can I just confirm with town staff whether notice was served on this application and whether any responses were received?
Mr. Chair, notice was served and no responses were received.
Okay, perfect. Good. Thank you. Appreciate that confirmation. Opani, we do have, as town staff, has put together a recommendation report, rather, that does recommend approval for this application as presented. And so I just want you to know that it is subject to a few conditions. Have you received a copy of that report?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And do you have any questions or concerns about any of the conditions, more specifically, that are presented in there?
No, I did not.
Okay. So can I confirm that you're aligned to all of those conditions?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. So herein, let me just hand over the floor to you, and perhaps you can just tell us a little bit more about the initiative.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I'll share my screen, so bear with me 1 second. Oh. Apologies, let me try that again. Please confirm that you can see my screen.
We do.
Perfect, thank you. So as I said, good evening. My name is Apani. I'm a planning consultant with MHBC, who are the planning agents for the application. I'm here to present on the consent for easements application submitted pertaining to the site at 1257 Westney Road. The site is outlined in red in the image in front of you and is located towards the north of Ajax, north of Rosslyn Road West, and along the east of Westney Road North. Westney Road being the road that you see there. And part of the site is accessed from Sabe Crescent, which is tree lined here and is shown with my mouse on the slide. Oops, there we go. So of relevance to this application, the site was recently granted site plan approval for 11 townhomes and 2 detached homes, which are accessed from Westney Road. This followed an approval for 5 detached homes fronting onto Sabe Crescent. And then as part of that executed development agreement for the detached dwellings along Sabe Crescent was a requirement to prepare 3 easements in favor of the townhouse development off of Westney. This application is technical in nature and is to ensure the functionality of the site. There are no new lots being proposed. So, there we go. So this slide is simply showing the registered plan associated with that development and the site. And this slide is just using the registered plan. We can now see the first easement being proposed, which is an access easement for the construction and maintenance of services and for the construction and maintenance of a retaining wall to be built between the detached lots and the future townhouse condo development. On the screen in green are the parts of the registered plan that will form the access easement, and identified in yellow is the benefiting party of the easement. And then this slide shows the remaining 2 easements proposed, which are the sanitary easement and stormwater easement for the installation and maintenance of the sanitary network and the stormwater channel. Similarly, on the screen shown in green are the parts that will form the easement, and the benefiting party is shown in yellow. So the provincial planning statement acknowledges that severances for the purpose of creating easements are considered technical in nature, and then for this reason, it is our opinion that the proposed consent is in the public interest and represents good planning. And happy to take any questions that members may have, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for that, Apani. Now look to see if anybody on the committee has questions for the applicant, or agent rather. Bernadette?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just had a question about will the location of the easements impact the ability to build on or the usable space of the Sabe Crescent lots, i.e. will it have any impact on the setbacks, the foundation, or landscaping?
No, they will not. They were initially taken into account when the site plan was prepared and was part of the development agreement that was executed in support of the site plan. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, Ken?
Through you, Mr. Chair, are you able to confirm that the retaining wall is actually located on the property of 1257 Westney Road North, not on the subdivision lots or the divided lots?
I believe it's right on the boundary of, let me just pull up a plan on my end. Sorry. To be honest, Henry is probably more familiar with this than I am, but bear with me. The retaining wall sits on the side of the townhouse. That's correct.
Sorry, so that was on the side of the proposed townhouses, not on
Correct.
Westney Road address.
So townhouses are on Westney Road, apologies. And the SABE lots are the detached homes. So I'll clarify. There's a retaining wall between the SABE lots and the Westney lots, the Westney lots being townhome development. So the retaining wall is on the townhouse, the boundary of the townhouse development, which is off of Westney.
Yeah. Opani, are you able to just perhaps get us to just refer back to the graphic that you had in your presentation?
Sure,
Do you
absolutely.
mind? It just may make it easier if we have a visual again.
Absolutely. Let me try to share my screen again. And I believe you can see that now.
Yep, we can.
So it's not absolutely clear off of this particular image, but the retaining wall will sit along here, just on the other side of what you see is a red dashed line. That's where the retaining wall will sit. And so the easement is just to allow for access and maintenance to that retaining wall and
Right.
construction.
So if I may, in other words, the townhouse complex, which is south of the
This one here.
1257, yep, it's behind there or east of there and west of the detached homes that are being proposed.
It is west of the detached homes that are being proposed. Sorry, I had to do the north, east, west, south in my head, but west of the detached homes being proposed. These are the detached homes off of SABE, and the retaining wall falls along here. Falls along here, if you can see my mouse.
Yep, we can.
And
So what you're confirming is that so that, if I call it red line, is on 1257.
Yes, the red line was around the site of 1257, and the retaining wall was on that side of the
Was on the other side.
red line. Yeah, correct.
Are you as clear as I am?
Okay, so through you, Mr.
Through the
Chair.
chair, the limits of the retaining wall are fully contained on the townhouse development site, but it would sit on the common property line that shares between the single detached lots and the townhouse condo. It's not straddling the lot line, it's fully contained, but it would be sitting on that lot line.
Okay.
On 1275, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair, if I'm able to ask a follow-up question on the topic of retaining walls, let's try and frame this another way. Are there any kind of future structural inspection or maintenance required tied to the retaining walls? And if so, will these be shared with the lot owners? Who will bear the cost of that?
Through the chair, there would be, but it would not be on the individual lots. And that's why there's an easement in place. It will be in favor of the condo, so the condo would be responsible for any maintenance.
Amanda?
Through the chair to staff, might it be helpful to include the part numbers as part of the conditions, just so it's clear where the easements are in reference to?
Through the chair, when we register the actual easement, that's when the actual parts will be part of the transfer. Yeah.
Okay, good question. Anybody else on the committee? Yeah, go ahead, Myrna.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just with respect to servicing and maintenance, who would bear the responsibility on a long-term basis in terms of maintenance and repair for the private sanitary and stormwater services underneath the easement? Has that been something that's been contemplated? And will it be registered on title?
Through the chair, so it would be the same situation. They're private services benefiting the condo corporation, so the condo would have an easement over them and they'd be responsible for maintenance.
Okay. Any other questions from committee? For now? No? Okay. Then I'll look to see if there's anybody here to speak either for or against application LD 1025 or 1257. I see one hand up, sir. If I can just welcome you to the podium. Sorry, just before you start, I'll get you to introduce yourself just so we're able to refer to each other.
My name is Andy Hammond. I'm a resident of Stafford.
Okay, so Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, of course.
I have a clarification question. I'm not sure whether I'm in favour or not in favour of the easement, to be honest. But when the original application was made for this development, the undertaking was given that all the work would be done from the Westney Road side of the situation. I just want to confirm or get confirmation that that is still going to be the case, that no heavy vehicles or that sort of thing will go through Sabby Crescent at all.
And you mean so Andy, are you referring to both, I'll call them both projects, because there's the townhouse development that's going to be built closer to Westney.
Right.
And then there's the detached homes that are being built on
Yeah, I think
facing
my
Sab
comment
Crescent.
is for both, Mr. Chair.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Eric or Henry, if I can look to you guys for guidance on that question. So again, the question for everybody's benefit is, will there be construction vehicles, et cetera, accessing this project, A or B, the townhomes or the detached homes, through Sab Crescent?
Through the chair, the majority of construction vehicles would be coming from the Westney side, but there would still have to be vehicles off of Sabe Crescent. If there's any dwelling being built off of that, it'd be physically impossible to not have a vehicle access through that side.
And how much would be some?
At this
know
point,
you-
we're not sure. There would be construction management plans in place. And throughout any building permit process, there's various inspectors. So if there were complaints about the vehicles coming and going, that's certainly something we could look into, but it would be a construction site too. So to expect that there be no vehicles is not reasonable.
Okay, the original initial approval, it was, in my opinion, quite clear that that would not be the case.
I don't know how that would be possible.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Through you,
Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Apani.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do know that there were some agreements that were put in place, as the gentleman that's making a delegation is alluding to require that the lots on Say be constructed first with access to the construction of those lots off of Westney Road. So he is recollecting correctly. So the objective is to prevent construction or construction traffic along Sabe, and to construct the lots along Sabe through access from Westney. I hope that clarifies that.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Andy. Anybody else here to speak either for or against the application? Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Can I just get you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Sandra Pettigrew on Sable Crescent.
Okay.
And one of my questions is the homes that are supposedly to be built. I would like to know if you can direct me, what's going to happen to the existing home that is there right now?
Are you talking about 1257 on the one on Westney?
Yes, it's the only home on the property right now.
Yes, I don't believe that home is going anywhere as part of the.
That's correct. Yeah, that care facility is still proposed to be retained.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, another question, I don't know if you can answer this question now, but is it a proposal for the homes that are building to be owned privately, or some will be allotted to the same situation with the home that is there right now?
Yeah, so I believe all of the proposed, so again, there's townhomes being built south of that house you're referring to.
Yeah.
And then there's the lots, the detached lots that are being built right on Sab Crescent. Both of them will be privately owned and not part of the current facility, 1257, the care facility.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Sandra. Anybody else here to either speak for or against? Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
My name is Susan Strackholder. I live at 33 Sab Crescent.
Okay, you spoke really fast. I didn't get your first name there.
Susan Strackholder.
Okay. I see that.
Now, my property runs right along the fence line. And my question is, how are you going to retain that wall?
Okay, you got to be a little bit more specific. Which fence line?
Well, right, do you have a map? It's right along our backyard faces Westney Road, so the whole length of the property.
So you're on Sab Crescent?
Yep.
Okay, so you're on Sab Crescent. Can we just
You might
pull
want to
up-
put up the map.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
do that.
So right at the bottom of the map there,
Okay, so bottom right of the map?
right bottom of 127.
Yeah.
That
Oh, okay. Got
is
it.
my property.
Okay.
So how are you going to retain that, the division of all those townhouses
Okay.
and those houses at the bottom? How are you going to retain that
Very
wall?
fair. Very fair question. I normally volley over all the tough ones over to town staff, so I'm going to do that. Can you help us out, Eric?
Sure. So I'm not privy to this plan. It dates back several years now, this development proposal. Perhaps Opani can speak to it a little further, but I'd imagine, I don't believe there's a retaining wall there, but Opani
There is
maybe-
no retaining wall. It's just dirt and a fence.
Yeah, for now, right? But the project hasn't started yet, so.
That's right.
Yeah, so hold that thought, Susan, if you don't mind.
I'm talking about the approved plan if it involves a retaining wall along that side.
So is this the approved plan?
No, this is just a draft plan to show the different parts for the easement. We
So-
haven't included the site plan.
Okay,
Opani had
so
showed the site
with-
plan from before.
Plan up and then ask the question about the retaining wall.
Okay, so can we have her plan up so that we know exactly, because there
Yep.
is no indication of townhouses on this plan right now.
Yes, because the meeting tonight is not for the proposed development. That was approved a while ago. And
So
the
why
public
are-
process involved in that
why-
were done years ago.
So
The
why are-
meeting tonight is for the easements to accommodate this proposed development.
Okay, so why were we not aware that this was going to be happening? Because none of us had gotten any information whatsoever in regards to a build on that property.
There would have been, and like this application actually dates back to 2007 and has gone through different processes since that. So at one point in that process, there were public meetings.
Okay, so my neighbors say no, there wasn't.
There was. There were public processes. The exact time, at the top of my head, I'm not aware
Well,
of it right
these-
now, but there were public processes a long time ago.
Well, there can't be because these neighbors have been there since this neighborhood has been built.
Yeah, so we're not going to be able to address that, ma'am. So Susan, to town staff, and I noticed that earlier when we were reading through the reports as well. So this dates back 19 years. So I can appreciate the fact that there's others in the room perhaps that have been at those addresses on Sap Crescent for 19 years. But there would be minutes, there would have been notice served, copies of those notices that would have been maintained, and then to town staff. That's not what's in question here. Right,
Okay.
so that original development is not what we're here to talk about. We're only, the committee and myself are only here to look at the proposal of granting the easement that allows for access between these two properties, like we were talking about at the top of this agenda item, and that's it. So your question is a very valid one, but I'll let you take that up with town staff after the meeting or on another day, at town hall. But it's not something that we're going to be able to address here, just because it's not what we're here for.
Okay, so what about my first question about the retaining wall then? Is that something that
Through the
you
chair,
can?
I'm happy to meet with you and go over the approved plans with you. And I can show you the grading plan and all the engineering plans that go with it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
And you can bring your other neighbors
Yeah.
as well, or whoever
Well,
else
my
is
neighbors
interested.
are here and
Yeah,
we
no,
all want to know what's going
I
on
can- for
because
sure, yeah,
none
I
of this has
definitely
ever been
understand
to
that.
light
Yep.
since that first initial meeting.
Yeah, we can definitely go over that and share it. It's public information. We can share it to you.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep.
Okay, thanks, Susan. Is there anybody else? Yep.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Neil. I'm at 38 Sabi Crescent. The 5 homes, my question's for the single detached homes. Are they sticking with the theme of the area? Because all the homes on Sabi are 50-foot lots, and the homes range from 2,300 to about 3,100 square feet. Is that what we're putting on these 5 existing lots?
Apani, are you able to comment on the frontage? Not aesthetics, but just on the frontage?
I thank you, Chair. I can attempt to address the comment. So I don't have the elevations in front of me, but they were approved, as Mr. Sampson said, quite a while ago. Today's application doesn't change or propose any changes to what was approved over a few years ago now. I believe there were elevation plans that did accompany the application off the top of my head a few years ago now that were reviewed by town staff and approved alongside the site plan and development.
Let me take a stab at it. Based on what the graphic is on the top there, sir, just over my left shoulder.
Yeah.
If I read to the right of the blue section, which is the detached homes that you're talking about in SAB, if I'm reading them right, on the right side of that, it tells you the frontage in meters. I believe it's anywhere between 16.9 to 14. My eyes are a little bit older, but I'll tell you that's what I'm reading, times 3 in terms of to try to convert that to feet. You're looking at anywhere between 42 to 45 foot lot coverage would be my guess.
Because I believe the original application, I believe, was 4 houses, and I believe the understanding was the houses were supposed to be the same architectural design as the existing houses on Sabi, and that was, am I correct in that? And that's what we were looking at. I think we were looking at 450s with the same, like I say, building setup, and just to kind of keep the whole community looking the same, because that was the way that this Tribute had initially had done that. You had 35-foot lots, 45-foot lots, 50s, 60s, and all, you know, the property value.
Yeah, no, very fair.
Through the chair, yeah, I can confirm it was originally 4 lots, and then it changed now probably about 15 years ago to 5 lots. Like Wasif had mentioned, they are between 14 and 16 meters, so you are close to the 50-foot lots, like you had mentioned. Don't have the elevations in front of me, but they would be like your typical 2-car garage driveway homes that you see on that street.
And everything, if everything moves forward, when are we looking at shovels in the ground?
I will let Opani speak to that.
At the moment, there is no timeline that I'm aware of for the development.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good
Hi
evening,
there,
sir.
John Polici. I'm at 43 Sabby Crescent. I just wanted to state for the record, for the minutes of the meeting, as a resident on Sabby, never heard of any approval for those townhomes or homes. You're saying it was done in 2007. I do remember some initial meetings back in the early 2000s, maybe 2003 or 4. And by the reaction of my neighbors here, it doesn't seem like any of them were aware of it either. So it seems that it's been approved, I guess. But just to state for the record that I was not made aware, and I think most of my neighbors were not made aware either. So
Yeah.
I don't know how that got
So usually-
pushed past or whatever.
Thir-
So
yeah,
maybe
so-
it's not the discussion for this meeting. I understand that.
It is, and I appreciate you acknowledging
Yeah,
that, John,
you know.
as well. So I think maybe what I'll add, guys, is that whenever there is, whenever there is a project or a minor variance application or a land division application like this one.
I wouldn't call this a
filed-
minor variance, but anyways, I mean,
Yeah.
well, maybe the easement, but not the projects.
Well, what would happen is that there would be notice that's served to the immediate community. There's a signboard, those white signboards that you kind of see and all that stuff on some properties as you drive around. Again, we're talking.
Wasif, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
I'll just
please.
jump in. So this is a site plan application because it's a condominium-based project. Site plan applications do not have public meetings.
Okay.
However, there were different applications that were associated with this, like a zoning bylaw amendment. Those have public processes because they go before council. There were also other consent applications, which is what we're dealing with tonight, throughout this process too, which also have public processes. So no, you may not have seen the final approval of it in a public setting, but there were different public processes throughout.
Where were those listed, posted, or how would any residents
I would
be
have to go
notified
back
of
in
that?
time to find all that, but like I said, this dates back to 2007.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about
Yeah.
right. But
Yeah.
after that, there was radio
No, there
silence on those
wouldn't have been
projects.
much after that.
Yeah, there
and
was
the
nothing
project
after
just
that,
kind of
and-
floated around. And it's changed versions of it, and now it's kind of at the stage where it was approved.
Right, well,
Yeah.
there were several of us were at those original meetings, and I can speak for myself, never received any confirmation or any information afterwards of them either going forward, being approved, or being revised in any way or whatnot. So it was, like I said, radio silence, whether, I can appreciate the fact that you're telling me that there were some public notices put out, but Like I said, judging by the reaction here, it seemed like nothing was going on there for the last
Yeah,
17
no, I
years
definitely
until we see
understand that.
this. So,
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
That's all I want to say.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. And is there anybody else? Hi, good evening. How are you? And we'll make this the last one, guys, just because I
Okay.
think I'm hearing the same
There's a
common theme.
theme, yeah.
So unless you've got something different to add,
No,
then you're more
it's
than welcome.
Just a question. Jenny Rose.
Jade?
Jenny.
Jane.
Jenny, like
Got
a
it.
penny, Jenny.
Got it.
Jenny Rose, 29 Sabby Crescent. To your point, are those documents available for all of us to see somewhere? Can we get copies of these things that have been previously in the past presented or these shared?
What is it that you're
In
looking
terms
for?
of what I indicated that we as the neighbors would have at some point in 2007 been.
I can go back and try to find all the
Yeah, I
different
think
things,
that's
but
what we as the neighbors would like to see.
but anything approved, I can
Understood.
show you as well. Like
Yeah.
I can show you the approved plans and all that kind of stuff. There would have been different staff reports for
Yeah,
different.
I think that's
Yeah.
fair. I think that's what we're all looking for, to see what was proposed, because we've seen the presentation that shows the townhomes, which we have not seen before.
I get it. Yep.
So it doesn't have, oh yeah, so we'd like to know when it was sent out, if there's an expired date on those, and I doubt those things expire because it's stamped, but let's see what's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it goes, very
Thank
fair
you.
comment. Thank you. I think it goes back to what I was recommending, I think, earlier. Perhaps it was right to Andy. I think it was, perhaps you guys can set up a meeting with town staff. They're available here, at your disposal to walk you through in terms of what was already approved, right? So, and when and all that stuff. This is all a matter of public record. Like you, I'm just, a citizen of Ajax, and just, I have nothing to do with the town of Ajax per se in terms of planning and all that stuff, just a resident myself, and so is everybody else here on the committee. So we don't have that technical knowledge, and nor do any one of us go back on this committee for 19 years. So we don't have that knowledge either. So all we're suggesting is perhaps, A and B, just have a meeting, kind of figure it all out, what was approved and all that stuff. All I can, again, I'll reiterate, what's in front of the committee this evening is not the proposal of the townhomes or the detached homes, et cetera. It really is just the matter of the easement, which again, the committee has a recommendation report from the town staff that does recommend approval of that application. So on that note, I'll end any other discussion on this application. I'll look to see whether there's a motion from committee. Tomas?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve consent application LD 1025, subject to all staff conditions as listed in the Town of Ajax staff report.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a seconder on that? Ken, I saw you first.
I second the motion.
Okay, noted, thank you. Any discussion on the motion amongst committee members? Okay, if not, then I'll look for a vote as presented. So, Pani, folks in the audience, the motion as presented for the easement has been carried. Again, this is for application LD 1025 for 1257 Westney Road North, and it'll now be subject to the 20-day appeal period. Okay. Thank you, Pani. Thanks for walking us through. Have a good evening. Okay, we'll move on now to the minor variance application of the agenda A1725 for 3 Thackeray Drive, and this is seeking to permit uncovered steps leading to a below-grade entrance in the required east interior side yard to encroach up to 0.1 meters from the east interior side lot line. And I'll look to see whether the applicant or agent is here.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair and all the committee members. My name is Raman Kumar and I will be representing this application, and the address is 3 Thackeray Drive.
Okay, good evening, Raman. Thank you for joining us. Just before I hand over the floor to you, sir, I'm just going to confirm with town staff whether notice was served on this application and whether there was any responses received.
Mr. Chair, notice was served and no responses were received.
Okay, thank you, staff. Okay, Robin, so we've got, just before I, again, hand over the floor to you, I also want to confirm that what you may be seeing on your screen, and for those of you in the audience, just over my left shoulder on the big screen here, that there is a report from town staff to the committee here that does recommend approval of this particular application subject to 4 conditions. Before I get into the conditions a little bit more, Robin, can you confirm that you've received this report?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and the 4 conditions in terms, I won't read all of them, but the fact that the recommendation applies and the variance applies only to that particular municipal address of 3 Thackeray Drive, an obstructed pedestrian path of travel be maintained, pedestrian travel from the rear yard be maintained, and the steps, and that the existing utilities be relocated. So those 4 conditions, are you in alignment with those?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm aligned with this.
Okay, and is there anything else that you would like to add in terms of this application?
No, I guess we are just requesting to permit below-grade steps in the east side yard with to encroach up to 0.1 meter from the east interior side lot line. And this is our only variance for this application.
Okay. All right, so I'll look to see if there's, from committee, whether there's any questions or comments for the applicant or agent. Okay, I don't see, oh, Ken.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can you confirm, is the, with the number of steps, is the door at the bottom of the steps, is it partially submerged or is it entirely below grade?
It's partially submerged and it's actually on the landing interior, in the interior side.
Is there going to be a light over top of that entranceway going to the basement?
So can you repeat?
Will there be a light at the top of those steps?
Yes, there will be light on the top of steps.
Hopefully there's some way of shading the light from shadowing onto the neighboring property. Will there be a requirement for a railing along the side of those steps?
Yeah, if it will be recommended by the building permit department, then we will surely provide it. But I guess a railing might not be required. This one.
Sorry, if I heard that right, you're saying a light may not be required?
The railing might not.
The railing may not
Light,
be required.
yeah.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Anybody else with any questions on the committee? Okay, then I'll look to see whether there's anybody else here to speak either for or against this application. Again, we're at application A1725 for 3 Thackeray Drive. I don't see anybody in the audience putting up their hand. Anybody virtually? No? Okay, well then I'll look to see whether there's anybody from the committee that's willing to put a motion. Bernadette, I see you.
I move that we approve application A17-25 for 3 Thackeray Drive, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, all 6 of them, on the basis that the variance application is minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate development and use of the property, and is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
Okay, motion noted. Can I get a seconder? Tomas? And is there any discussion on the motion as presented? In that case, I'll look for a vote. Okay, and the vote has been carried unanimously. So, Raman, your application that you're representing, A1725, has been approved here at this forum, and it'll now be subject to a 20-day appeal period.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee.
Okay, thank you for attending. Appreciate it. All right, then we'll move on to application A1825. This is for 64 Rumbello Crescent, and this is to permit a maximum aggregate area of 105 square meters for all platforms more than 1.2 meters in height above finished ground. And is the applicant here to speak for it? Hi, ma'am. We can. I believe you guys are all good, right? Okay. And can I just get you to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Balakausla Kandasamy. I'm the owner of the property.
Okay, perfect. And just before I hand over the floor to you, I'll just look to see if from town staff whether notice was served on this application, whether any responses were received.
Mr. Chair, notice was served and there was correspondence received, which was provided.
Okay, and just for the benefit of everybody else in the audience, could you just tell us whether that correspondence was either for or against the application?
It's correspondence in for and opposed.
Perfect. Thank you. Just want to make sure everybody is aware. Okay, so I'll hand over the floor to you, Balak. If you could just maybe walk us through a little bit about the project.
Sure. So originally we received a permit 2 years ago to build a deck with the minor variance application as well, and it included a sloped roof, which were both approved. However, during the construction process, we discovered that the attachment of the sloped roof to the house would require significant brickwork, and our existing jacuzzi would have to be removed just based on the location that it had to be anchored into. And so this approach would have caused considerable disruption and potential damage. So after working with the city and getting their approval, we adapted the design to a flat roof and making it more secure and avoiding the need for any invasive changes to the house. However, after doing that, since it was a flat roof, our children who are 12 and 14 started accessing the area through the master bedroom window. And so to ensure their safety, we modified the roof to support life load and added the glass railings. But simultaneously, we were working on the permit for that. This effectively then created a second floor balcony. So that's what the minor variance application for is for today. I understand that our neighbor has expressed concerns about privacy and their view. To address privacy, we added a privacy screen that can be removed on the proposal, that can be removed when the balcony is not in use, and when the space is in use, we can enforce the screen to create privacy for both ourselves and our neighbor. When it's not in use, it can be removed, and so they can also have less impact on their view. I also want to point out that the view from this new balcony is probably somewhat similar to the view we already have from our existing ground level deck in our backyard into the neighboring properties, as our backyard does extend out far. So if we go far on the deck, we can see into their areas. However, again, to avoid any disagreements with this privacy, we would include this privacy screen. We acknowledge that both properties were purchased at premium lots, as we did have complaints about that. And I believe that the premium was mainly for bigger size and the fact that it has a walkout basement and also being a ravine lot. So the changes we've made doesn't really affect the view of the ravine or the other premium features. We kept this in mind throughout the design process, and we've worked hard to respect the character and the area and the value of all properties. I also would like to point out that the sloped roof we were originally granted a permit for and the flat roof we built now have very similar impacts when it comes to the view. In fact, the sloped roof would probably create a bigger barrier to the view. So this would probably improve that. So we thought this would be a reasonable and responsible adjustment. My neighbor did suggest maybe moving the railings on the side inwards to decrease the area that we can access from the top. And initially I thought it would be doable. But unfortunately, when we discussed this at home and we were talking about it with the kids, I have 2 teenagers or preteens, and so when we mentioned that there would be a ledge that would be open, one of the comment was like, oh, so we can actually just jump over the railing and sit on the ledge. It looks like a safe space. It's a big 4 feet space. So that kind of shook me, and I'm not sure if I could support that idea of bringing the railings in. I can support the idea of maybe putting additional railings in by 4 feet if that would help, but I truly don't think that would change our view into the property by bringing it in by 4 feet. So that was one issue. I also understand that one of the neighbor has expressed that their view is a source of relaxation after a long, stressful workday. And myself being a healthcare professional, I deeply respect that sentiment. I do understand how important it is to have space to decompress. However, I genuinely don't believe this balcony significantly impacts their view. In fact, when I compared this to the anxiety I would experience knowing that my children could have access to an exposed ledge, it's a risk I simply can't justify. Importantly, the staff report by Town of Ajax clearly supports this project. They've indicated it's a minor variance because it is just modifying the permitted roof to now a balcony, so it does not go deeper into the backyard. It's within the space that was permitted for initially. And I'm sure you read through the staff report, so I don't have to comment on that. So in conclusion, this design allows us to create a staff space for our family. It complies with the city's requirements. It maintains the character and feel of the neighborhood. We've added a retractable privacy screen as an additional measure to minimize any intrusion, and we truly believe this is a balanced solution that respects both our family's interests and those of our neighbors. Thank you very much for your consideration tonight, and any questions?
Yep, hold that thought. Amanda?
I have a couple of questions, so bear
Sure.
with me through the chair. The first question is, the staff report identifies that you're proposing retractable privacy screening on the signs. Why is that temporary in nature? Why aren't you looking to secure something that's more long-term to provide privacy to the neighbors? Because it does appear that that platform, your house naturally projects further than the two adjacent properties, it appears. So that is projecting, again, the platform even further. So I'm just wondering why you wouldn't look to...
We're in support of permanent screens if that's required, but I just wanted to accommodate my neighbors' wishes. They thought it would be interfering with their view from their home, having like solid barriers there all the time. That was the reason for my retractable option.
Has there been correspondence with the immediate neighbors, or might they be here tonight?
Yeah, they're here tonight,
Oh,
and
they are here
this
tonight.
has been discussed. And I just disclosed to my neighbor that although initially I was okay with moving it in 4 feet, after the discussion with the family, I'm more anxious about that. So we're willing to do additional railings if needed, but again, I don't know if that's going to make a difference, but I can't take away the railing that's already there to cover the full perimeter.
Is there a door on that third story, or is it just windows?
Right now it's a window, but our proposal includes a door because if it's going to be a livable, like we're proposing it to be an accessible balcony now that it's already built that way.
Okay. Is there any intentions to enclose the second story platform?
Sorry, what was that?
Is there any intentions to enclose the second story platform? That's below the...
Oh, no, that one's just with glass railings. We're not going to enclose that. We have no intentions at the moment. It's just a deck.
Those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda. Ken?
Through you, Mr. Chair, is there going to be a staircase down from the upper balcony level?
We're not proposing for a staircase. Honestly, it wasn't supposed to be an entertainment space. It was just a security thing. And it would only be accessed through our master bedroom. So it's very private, very, no staircase going down.
Could you clarify for me, because I can't tell it from the perspective of the picture, how far over the lower level does the upper balcony project?
It's the same. It's the same size.
Okay.
So it does not protrude past that first initial
just
deck.
put
If we
this
can go to that first
picture
picture that we had up. The actual picture? Yeah, thank you.
So it appears to project. Is
I
that
think
an
it's
illusion?
the angle, maybe, or
Through the chair, it is the angle, it is the same footprint. Yeah, it's the angle of the picture.
Okay. Any other questions, Ken?
I do, but I'm just,
No, go.
okay.
Please.
I guess I have a concern about this upper level area, that if someone was up there, do they have a second path that gets them down to the lower balcony level?
at this point, no. If it's required, we can consider it for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Amanda, your mic is still hot. You're good? Other questions? No? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. I'll now look to see whether there's anybody here to speak either for or against this application. Again, we're on application A1825 for 64 Rumbello Crescent. Ma'am, I'll just have you take a seat. Thank you. If I could just have you up to the podium. And if I could just get you to introduce yourself. Hi, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, my name is Lisa, and house number is the 66.
Okay,
and nearby.
immediate neighbor.
Yeah, we and my husband, English is not good, so I let
Sure.
my son transfer, okay?
Okay. I'll just get the son to maybe give me your name as well.
Johnson. Is it Johnson?
Johnson.
John. Okay.
So the rooftop of the deck is currently blocking the amount.
No.
We are currently the resident of 66 Rumbello Crescent, and we do not agree with the applicant submitted by our neighbor 64 Rumbello Crescent for the following reasons. One, the rooftop on the deck is already currently blocking the amount of sunlight reaching our deck, kitchen, and living room, and which receives a lot of sunlight prior to the construction. This is especially prominent in the winter time. Number two, when they go up to the second floor of the deck, they are eye level with our bedroom and bathroom, which is located on our second floor. This infringes on our right to our privacy. This is especially true at night when we have our lights on.
And we have
so
a
it's up to you,
picture for these two reasons. So if you want
You
to
have a
see-
picture?
Yeah.
The picture in my bedroom.
This is from my bedroom. Take a look, okay? And this is from the living room.
And number?
So just for the record, the neighbor from 66 Rumbello, Lisa and team and family have presented the committee with two photographs, one taken from their master suite and one taken from their living area
And the kitchen area.
and the kitchen area. So one is from the second floor of the house and one is from the first floor.
The second house is the bedroom and the bathroom.
Which is the second floor?
Yes,
Right, that's what I mean. Okay, so it's from the second floor and then the ground floor. That just kind of shows a view of looking out, so you can kind of see the
Yeah,
deck
from the window.
from the window.
You can see my washroom, my bedroom, living room, kitchen. Everyone can see me.
Okay, got it.
And we have a third
Yes,
reason.
please,
Yeah.
please continue.
Okay.
The third reason is the neighbor Houston has given a sense of oppression and leaving most of our lawn in our backyard without any sort of sunlight. This actually paints an ugly picture to our backyard as which we do not want to have.
That's all.
I don't think I understood that one.
High roof, gave me no feeling, no wire, no good.
So we buy the house because there's a good, very good outside. This backyard is very good view, right? But right now, when we go outside, it's a huge, the
Ugly roof.
Okay.
so that's why. And no sun sometimes.
You know, the house was south, from my house out, my house the north.
Right.
That's all. So we are not agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, that was commentary from 66 Rumbello. Is there anybody else here to speak either for or against? Sir, if I can have you come up to the podium. Perhaps just introduce yourself and your street address.
Committee Chair, council members. My name is Ash Jain. I'm the owner of 62 Rumbello Crescent, which is the home just south of 64.
Okay.
I don't have the shadow issues that my neighbor on the other side has. That's fortunate, but I think if we can go to Ms. Kandasami's photo, yeah, this one, what is not really illustrated in this photo is just how far that deck comes out. Now, when the deck was originally proposed, I'm totally acceptable. In fact, there's multiple multiple homes in this neighborhood that have a very large, long platform at the first level, right? It fits, it's fine, and none of us had an issue with that. The concern here is now this is the only house that will have a second floor. It is quite massive, and what you can't really see is that comes out 20 feet, right? Which makes it a very easy ability to walk forward towards the end, turn around, and clearly see into both our houses. The privacy concerns on the first floor, I would say, is not the same as the privacy concerns on the second floor, right? The top floor, which allows a direct viewing not only into the master bedroom, where my sanity is, where I want to relax and be able to see directly to the forest without, and I want to wake up with my curtains open and have the sun come in. I mean, I paid premium for this privacy and this ability to have that light come in. And now what has happened is I have to close these curtains because I cannot accept, first of all, this concept of retractable barrier. I will always be in fear of somebody being on that roof and looking in, right? Whether maybe it's not going to be the parents, but they have young kids and they can easily see what goes on in my master bedroom, which I don't want,
Sure.
right? It's also looking in directly to my ensuite washroom as well, right? The other opportunity I had with this project this morning, because I did receive Mr. Simpson's letter to the committee, and then I had a visit. I'm a mortgage advisor myself, and I had the opportunity to have a conversation with actually one of my realtors after going through that letter and then going into it as well. And there is an impact now. So if you look at that, if you look directly at that, it looks right over, not only into my bathroom, but it looks also onto my top of my deck. It is very overbearing to my backyard and to my home. That is a marketability hit on the value of my home and the resale value of my property. Right? One of the biggest advantages of all these houses, if you were to turn the camera 180 degrees, you'll see this beautiful forest. It is very the few forests. I mean, during spring, for the first time in my life, I saw a flock, not a solitary, a flock of young blue jays going on. When they're babies, they flock together. I never knew that. We see wildlife, and we have in May, we see fireflies. How often do you see that in Ontario? There is a pristine and beautiful element that brings my sanity in line. As you can see, I'm very in a highly stressful environment. The housing industry is all over the place. We have clients we have to look after, and it's always on demand. Even sitting here, I'm like checking on my phone to see for my own clients. So having that opportunity to enjoy that brings me sanity, and now I'm worried about that. I understand I did reach an agreement, but I understand it's been retracted on the basis that there's a temptation for their children to come over and I guess sit on their platform on the other side. Well, a platform's better than falling over onto the ground floor on the other side. So, I mean, that's maybe my neighbors can have a conversation with their children to ensure that they have an understanding of not doing that. The proposal that we had originally agreed to was to push back that southern railing, so that part that's right next to my house, push it back to, I don't know if you can see the, if you can go to the deck floor plan.
True.
From bird eye view. Yeah, okay, so the house is at the bottom, the deck's at the top. You see there's a little bit of an indent and then it goes up, right? I had proposed to move that southern fence in full all the way back to just that point. That's it's approximately 2.5 meter pushback, right? And 2.5 meters times 6, what we're looking at is about 15. 15 is a nominal impact to a 105 square meter deck. It's you know, the variance here is it's 30 foot, right? Or 30 square meters, right? 30 square meters. We're looking at the request here of 350% to get to 105 square meters. That's not a minor variance, in my opinion. That's a substantial deviation, right? Look, I don't want to compromise their enjoyment of a second floor, and I think it's quite reasonable to maybe for them to compromise and push back everything to that point where it juts out, giving up, what, 15 square meters out of 105? So then I can have my piece, and then they can still, you know, have a pretty similar enjoyment of the view of that upper floor. Okay. That is my counter proposal. That helps me, but I don't think that helps my neighbor.
Yeah, that's
right?
exactly what I was thinking.
So that's, but at least I'm trying to work, right? I want that to be clear. I'm trying to find a solution for everybody, right?
Anything else, Mr. Jain?
Yeah, I just want to, if it's okay, I want to just go through my notes quickly.
And just to confirm for everybody else's benefit, when I had asked the question earlier at the top of this application, whether there was any responses received, Mr. Jain, yours was one of the formal responses that we've already seen as well.
Wonderful. And that was before I had a conversation with my realtor.
Fair.
Right?
Yep.
So I guess it's not just privacy, it's the marketability hit, and that's substantial.
Sure.
We all paid a lot for that premium lot.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, and is there anybody else here to speak either for or against this application? Again, we're on 1825 for 64 Rumbello. Okay, seeing none. Then, was there anybody else on virtually to speak either for or against? Okay. Then I'll look for a motion unless there's any more discussion from the committee. Amanda?
If possible, I do have a question for the owner, if possible.
Okay. Mr. Jain, can I just get you to have a seat? And
Go ahead.
Amanda.
Thanks. I believe we just heard from your neighbor that there was an agreement in place between the both of you that you were going to inset the railings for privacy measures. Why did you choose not to go that route?
Sure, as I mentioned earlier, we were okay, like I was willing to do that, and then we had the conversation with the kids, and that's when, like, I didn't even realize, but the way kids think are different from how we do, so my 14-year-old was like, oh, then we'll have such a big ledge there that I could just hop over the railings and sit there and relax, because to their mind it appears like a safe space. It's not like jumping over a railing, it's sitting on a secured flat space. But that doesn't give me any peace. And so that's why I said, like, if you do require that railing, I can add an additional set of railings at that inset, but I don't think that would address the concern of the view, but it will address the concern of privacy. But I think the retractable screen or a permanent screen would address the concern of privacy even more if we had to go that route.
So currently what you're proposing is a 6-foot retractable screen. If you don't have that, what is the height of the railings that are there now?
It's a standard height. I think it's like, I'm not sure, like 3.5 maybe? It's the same as the bottom one. I don't know the number. It comes up to my chest area.
So currently there now it's 2 glass railings on the sides as well?
There's glass railings all around. We put it in for safety before the permit, and then we applied for the permit. And if I can comment on the pictures that our neighbors provided, I think it, like, to me, it looks like their view from the main floor versus the second floor, like the obstruction seems to be similar, but also the permit we already have includes the deck and a roof, so that obstruction is not any different if it's a balcony versus a roof.
True. I do have a question. If you're done, Amanda? Yeah. The retractable railing. So how far out would that be?
We could put it, like I've been looking online, I think they go out as far as like 11 feet.
Okay. And
yeah.
right now the deck is 20?
I believe it's 16.
16?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 20 from the indented part of the house,
Right.
but
Okay.
20 from the main portion.
Got it.
I mean, sorry, 16 from the main portion. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from Ken?
Is there a sliding glass door on the upper level from the bedroom?
No, that's part of the permit that's being proposed. We have not installed that yet, as we're still waiting on the permit.
Thank you.
Any other last call for questions? Tomas?
So I have a question for the staff. What's the process if this application gets denied?
Through the chair. So if the application gets denied by the committee, that the applicant could appeal it to the OLT.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. I'll have you take a seat. All right, then I'll look for a motion from committee members. Eric, I believe I'm okay to put a motion forward myself, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'll move that application A1825 for 64 Rumbello Crescent be approved for the maximum aggregate area minor variance application that's being sought, and on the basis that it is minor in nature and subject to the conditions in the staff report. Can I get a seconder, please? Ken, thank you. Any discussion on the motion as presented? Okay, then I'll look for a vote. So the motion as presented has been denied. So it does not get the minor variance application approval here. Like Eric just mentioned a few minutes ago, it can go through for an appeal through the Ontario Line Tribunal. Okay, and that window will be open for the next 20 days. So that appeal, so you can appeal the decision, and you're the owner of the home, so you're able to appeal the decision, and you'll have 20 days to do so. Exactly. They'll walk you through the steps. Okay. Thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is minor variance application A1925, 7 Irwin Street, and this is to permit a minimum setback from the rear lot line of 3 meters for a 1-story addition to the existing dwelling And do we have, and also to permit a maximum lot coverage of 54%. Do we have the applicant or agent here? Good evening, ma'am. As you're walking up to the podium, town staff, if I could just confirm whether notice was served for 7 Irwin Street and whether any correspondence was received.
Mr. Chair, notice was served and there was correspondence that expressed some concerns with the proposal.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, I'm Paulette Samuels, and my neighbor is contesting it because he's saying that my neighbor.
Sorry, Paulette. So just before you go on, so you're the applicant?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
so
from 7.
At 7 Irwin.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So before, if I may, respectfully, don't tell me about your neighbor. We'll get there. Tell me about, educate us on what the project is trying to do and what you're seeking relief from.
It's a 1-story ensuite that I want to live in and rent the rest of my house. Sorry, my representative is not here. My son, he's away abroad. He's out of the country.
Okay.
Work-related issues. So your question is?
Sorry, so you're building a 1-story
Yes.
in your backyard
Yes, sir.
for rental purposes,
No, for myself.
just for yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And a full dwelling, so it'll have heating, plumbing, electrical, the whole bit, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And because of the fact that you're building this, from what I understand, if I just read what's on the screen, and I think this is what the committee is all aware, is that because of this build, the maximum lot coverage is now 54%, whereas I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but 47, I believe, is the maximum limit. And the minimum setback, the rear lot line is 3 meters, whereas I believe it's supposed to be 7.5, thank you, from the back. So those are the two things that I think has you coming here today. So, okay. If I may, when are you planning on starting this project, Paulette?
Sometime ending of July.
Middle of July, okay. Okay, I'll look to see whether you have whether there are any questions from committee members. Bernadette?
Through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps you can answer this, or maybe you can't, is why did you decide to do a full rear addition versus a detached garden suite or an ADU on the property?
Why do I want to attach instead of detach?
Right.
Because I'll have access to my home, and I have to use the things like my laundry room, and also for rental purposes. If one does not pay my rent, it's easy to get that person out. To be honest.
Okay, Bernadette, keep going.
Just another question in terms of along the lines of timeline. You said that you plan on starting sometime in July. Is that the same timeline for removing the gazebo, and whether any other accessory structures do you intend, for instance, a shed, will that remain on the property?
No, I will be giving that to my neighbor. He has asked me for that.
And will you be taking the gazebo down the first question, or would you be taking the gazebo down at the same time?
Before.
Okay, so before construction will start. Okay, questions, Ken?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Do I understand that you're saying you're going to have access through the existing house to use some of the features? There isn't a provision for being able to get around. There's no walkway. So you're going to go through the other building into your separate space. Is there any windows or openings on that existing wall that are going to be removed or blocked as a result of the addition?
The existing wall, are you speaking about my neighbor in the back?
No, he's talking in the back of your house right now.
Yes.
So there's, if I may, Ken, so the graphic, I don't know if you can see that from the angle you're sitting at. So I think what I'm seeing is that house, man, where it has the brick, that's your current house, correct?
Correct.
So I think the question that my colleague is asking is, on the ground level of that, do you have any windows?
Or doors?
Or doors? I would assume yes, correct?
Yes.
You do. Is it a window or a door?
I have a garden door.
A garden, like a patio door. Okay. Ken, if you want to continue with your questioning, if
Okay.
you had more.
Will that door remain open, or is it going to be blocked off and closed?
Will remain open.
Okay. And are there windows that are either going to be removed or blocked? on that
Blocked and
ground
then,
level?
blocked, sorry.
So they'll be temporarily blocked? Okay.
Yes, I will be making or opening more windows on the, or a window on the opposite side.
Of the existing house?
Yes.
Or okay. For the attachment which is projecting into the rear yard, it looks like it has a different character than the character of the house that's behind it. Has there been consideration as to what can be done to make sure that it looks complementary to it? This is on the ground floor.
Yes, it's a one-story.
It's saying that it is all siding finished. So it's up siding on all sides? The house is brick?
Yes, it is.
The attachment is going to be siding? Yes?
No, it's not going to be.
I think I'm confusing her.
Yeah, did you say it's not going to be
It's not going to be siding.
on the new addition?
That's correct.
Ma'am, there's a picture here. I'm not sure if you're able to see that. And if you're not, just let us know. We can bring something to you closer.
I
But-
can see.
Okay, perfect. So it actually, right in the middle, bottom of that drawing, it says new addition right above that window, and it says siding finish. That was a picture that was given to us, I would presume, from somebody in your camp. Whether it was you, your son, somebody else, whatever, I don't know. But that was a picture that the committee members received with this application. So it says siding, and now you're saying it's not going to be siding. So which one is the case? I think that's the confusion.
Brick. It will be brick. Not siding to the fence. So you talk, no siding at all.
No siding on the addition at all?
No, none.
Okay, and are there any other changes that have happened since you've submitted this to where you stand now?
No, I think the architect had put windows to the back, to the fence, when there will be none, because that's going to be a blank side for privacy. And that's what the neighbor in the back is contesting, like
Is that privacy? Okay,
privacy.
okay. Ken, did you have any other questions on? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Sorry, I think I'm confused. So the picture that I'm looking at, that's part of the staff report, is not reflective of what it is that you're planning to build. Yes?
I had said to the architect that I maybe will put siding, but after I said, okay, I'll use the brick. Maybe that's why it's like that, he said, siding. Because it's facing the fence, that we could do siding instead of brick. And that's what the drawing is all about.
Right, I guess,
And there's windows in this view, and you're saying there's going to be no windows in the
No
backyard?
windows. The windows will be at the sides of the, it's a
Through,
flat.
through the
with-
chair, if I may, so window placement is entirely Ontario Building Code related. So if there's going to be just the type of living space within that addition, especially if it's going to function as an additional dwelling unit, there will be a requirement for windows and a certain amount of like light that has to enter into the room. So may the windows change perhaps when she gets to the building permit process, but there would have to be some form of window. So I just want to clarify that.
Yes, there will be windows there, but not on the back side to the fence.
No, what I'm saying is there likely would be a requirement for a window where it shows it on the drawing in front of the committee right now. Perhaps it doesn't need to be that exact location, but I can't imagine there wouldn't be a case where there's no windows required on
There
that
will
side.
be windows, right.
Ken, any other questions from you? No? Okay, Bernadette?
Through you, Mr. Chair, with the proposed new addition, it's likely obviously going to reduce your green space. And so do you foresee a need for alternate amenity areas, so such as, a future patio or a balcony, as that obviously will impact your line coverage and so forth? So is
No, I
that
won't.
something that you're contemplating?
No, I won't have a balcony or nothing. The gazebo will be removed, and it's just an ensuite for myself. With windows, of course, but not at the back to the fence, to the sides.
Through you,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, based on staff comments, given that there will likely be a requirement based on Ontario Building Code that windows will need to be placed at the rear facing the fence. I'm just articulating that to make sure that that's quite clear. Obviously, we're not in a position to negotiate that or whatnot, but I just want to make sure that you are understanding that. And
Okay.
those are things that you'll have to work out at the
Yes.
building stage should you
Yes.
get there.
I can see where he drew that. Right, I can see that, yes. I agree, yes. Oh, I understand. Yes.
Okay. Tomas?
Through you, Mr. Chair, question to the staff. In regards to the privacy facing the property at the rear, is it possible to increase the fence height? Is it permissible by the bylaw?
Through the chair, our fence bylaw does have a maximum fence height of 2 meters. So it would depend on what the existing fence is currently at. So if it's already at the max, which most of them usually are around, it would not be possible. But there could be other kind of landscaping measures that were put in place potentially.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Paulette, I'll have you take a seat. Thank you. And I'll now ask to see whether there's anybody else here to speak either for or against this application. Again, we're at 7 Irwin Street, application A1925. Okay, is there anybody on virtually, Steph? No. Okay, then I'll look for a motion from committee members. Bernadette?
I move that we approve application A19-25, subject to the 4 conditions of the staff report, on the basis that it is minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate development and use of the property, and finally, it is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
Okay, motion noted. Can I get a seconder? Tomas, thank you. Any discussion on the motion as presented? Maybe I'll answer my own question on the discussion part. I'm thinking out loud that I'd like to see new drawings, because one of the conditions in the motions is that I think it's the first condition. Can we just pull this back a little bit right to the first page? That everything is in accordance with these drawings. And if the applicant is telling us that, hey, condition number 1, substantially in accordance with the drawings submitted in this minor variance application, that's making me feel a little uncomfortable. So what I'd like to do is, I understand the motion as presented, of course, but I think it's that condition that's making me uneasy. So I'd like to perhaps somehow figure out how to take this back through town staff and have the applicant resubmit those drawings. Are you guys?
Through the chair, if you don't mind. Is it the facade material and window placement, which is what is making you concerned about that wording?
At the very least, because that's the only 2 things that have come to surface. I don't know if there's others. That's the problem, right?
Well, it's just, those are aesthetic things. So like when we say substantially in accordance, like we're generally meaning like the footprint would be the same, right? Whereas facade materials, window placement, aesthetic stuff like that, that's not zoning related. So if that was the concern, I don't know how much of a difference it would make. I just wanted to point that out.
No, and I appreciate you interjecting because I think that was very useful.
Okay.
So let me ask you another question as a follow-up to that comment. So you're confirming to the committee that there's no changes to the footprint that would happen herein. It would be exactly as that in terms of if I really look at what we're considering here in terms of minor variance, it's maximum lot coverage and it's the rear setback. So you're saying both of those, regardless of drawings, should not be changing between now and the project?
That's correct. And if something like the facade material changed, we would say that's still substantially in accordance. However, if the committee feels that there should be a condition about how it looks, well, then you are entitled to add a condition.
Right.
Yeah.
I was more concerned about facade, so, and again, accuracy of the information, but if that's what it is, sorry, I saw Tomas's hand first, and I'll come to you, Bernadette, please.
So on the motion, my concern is with the privacy of the rear neighbor. How can we address that his privacy concerns are actually addressed through this minor variance? If his fence line is at the max, 2 meters, is there anything we can do to actually include that in a condition?
I think to Eric's point earlier from town staff, I think the max, to your point, and you're recognizing that as well, with 2 meters, 6 feet, whatever, is the max, and they're probably perhaps at the max. If not, they can plant something like cedars or hedges or whatever that could go taller. That could give you additional privacy, but that's then up to the owner and at their expense as well. And but I think outside of that, I don't think there's anything else in terms of privacy. Okay. So, Bernadette? Yeah, as well, right? Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just administratively, just a question for you. I put a motion onto the floor. It's been seconded. So we have a motion,
We can vote on it.
and you don't necessarily have to vote for the motion that you put. Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, you can also make a motion to amend that, because now you're in the discussion period. So if you want to bring forward a new motion that has different conditions, someone could do that now, someone could second that, then you could vote on that.
Yeah. Does anybody want to amend the motion, whether you're the originator or otherwise? Again, the motion was to approve minor variance application A 1925 based on the 4 conditions in the staff report. Okay, seeing them, then I'll look for a vote on the motion as presented. Can we do a yeah. So again, for the benefit of everybody, I think we had one admission of an error just in terms of input, so we're going to re-vote. tie goes to the runner. So we are, right, okay. So we've got, can we just throw that up on the screen again, can we, or no? It's too late. Okay, it was 2-2 and 1 conflict, right, abstention. So just for the benefit of everybody, so we had 2 votes out of the 5 people here on the panel. So we had 2 votes for, 2 votes against, and 1 person abstained from voting. So it's 2 versus 2. And that, unfortunately, means the application is denied. Okay? You can appeal the decision that, meaning it was not approved here today. You can appeal, you have 20 days to appeal that to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and you can contact staff and they can help you do that. Okay? Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to the next application on our agenda, and that is application A2025 for 66 Telford Street. This is to permit uncovered steps leading to a below-grade entrance in the required west interior side yard to encroach up to 0.0 meters from the west interior side lot line. Is the applicant or agent here? Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it. And just while you're walking up, I'll just confirm with town staff whether notice was served on this application and whether any correspondence was received.
Mr. Chair, notice was served and there was correspondence in favor. Provided.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So we've got, ma'am, I'll hand, if you could just maybe introduce yourself first.
No problem. My name is Antonella, and I'm the homeowner.
Okay, good evening, Antonella, and thank you again for your patience. So what you may see above my left shoulder here is a copy of a town report that the committee is in receipt of from town staff. I'm assuming you've seen this already. As well, it does recommend approval, subject to 5 conditions rather, that the application and the variance only applies to your particular property at 66 Telford, and in alignment with the drawings that were submitted, unobstructed pedestrian path to the uncovered steps, and from the uncovered steps we maintained unobstructed pedestrian path to from the rear yard. On the other side also be maintained, that you maintain the existing drainage and obtain all the necessary building permits. Are you in alignment with all of those conditions? Any questions on any of those?
No, pretty straightforward. I mean, the stairs, that side entrance was done, I'm going to say at the latest, 2014, by previous owner.
Okay.
We just moved in 2 years ago and were only advised of permit issues November.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, that all.
Fair enough. Okay.
Fair enough.
No, I hear you. Okay, got it. So I think you kind of summed it up there. So you guys just moved in a couple of years ago. This was already there. We just found out that, hey, this is what it is, and that's what kind of brings you here to kind of bring this into conformance.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Any questions from committee? Amanda?
Through the chair, is there any existing drainage outlet in that foundation where the stairs are now? Like, for instance, if there's a big rain event, does it pool there currently?
There's a drain.
Oh, there is a drain.
Yeah, at the bottom of the steps. There's a railing, there's a light. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we just go to the picture part of the, yeah, there we go. So just at the bottom, right in front of the door, Antonella is what you're saying, that there's the drainage?
In the center.
Okay, and I'm assuming that's what, about 4 or 5 steps down?
How many steps are there?
Roughly? 5, okay. Okay, Amanda, you good on that? Okay. Any other questions? Tomas?
Looking at the picture, it seems like you have a gate on the same side as the entrance to the basement.
The white railing?
The gate to the backyard at the back.
Oh, in the back.
In the
Yes,
back.
there's the gate to the back.
Right. Do you have a gate on the other side
We
as
do.
well? We do.
On the other
You do,
side.
okay. I would just like to encourage or maybe put a additional condition that you don't use the door or maybe permanently enclose it so you would not be encroaching onto the neighbor's lot while crossing over to your backyard.
Not be like closing that gate so that we don't access it. So we go out from Ismail's side instead of Dash's side.
Hi, I'm
That's
her
my
husband.
husband.
My name is John. Sorry, I should have come up here before. But we actually have a letter from our neighbor stating that
He's got no
he's
issue.
totally fine with us walking 2 feet on his property. So, I mean,
Okay. How does that
But
mean?
we do have access from the
well,
other
we have
side.
access from both sides.
Yeah. No, fair. Fair. So it
like
almost
I
is
said,
like
this
an
was put
unwritten
in-
easement, if you will.
And like I said, this was done at the latest, and this is going back on MLS searches. The previous owner had it rented out in 2014 as is,
Sure.
and no one ever complained.
Yeah, no, fair, I hear you. Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it currently rented out?
No,
Okay, got it.
and I don't plan on renting it out either.
Understood, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's actually, my question or comment, I should say, aligns with my colleague here. It's, I guess my biggest concern was kind of having access or trying to use that gate and then having to use your neighbor's property to access that gate. I understand, and the committee has received the letter from your neighbor in support of the application. Just want to be mindful that may not be your neighbor forever. So that's a concern that, for any future owner on that side of your property, that, just to be mindful of that.
Oh, no,
In its current state, it's great that you guys get along, you have a kind of a consent in place. Yeah, but just something to be mindful of and consider on a going forward basis.
For sure, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for committee? Okay, have you take a seat. Thanks, John. Thanks,
Thank you.
Antonella. Is there anybody else here to speak either for or against this application? Again, we're on application A 2025 for 66 Telford. Anybody online, guys? No? Okay. All right, seeing none, then I'll look for a motion. Bernadette?
I move that we approve application A 20-25 for 66 Telford Street on the, subject to the staff report, the 6 or 5 conditions listed in the staff report, on the basis that the application is minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate development and use of the property, and is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
Okay, motion heard, seconded by Amanda. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, then I'll look for a vote. Good news, your application has been approved unanimously. I think it was the cheering squad that you brought behind you that was quiet moral support. So again, it'll be subject to the 20-day appeal period. Obviously, there's no building permits and all that stuff, so you don't have to worry about all that. So just wait for the 20 days, and then it'll get all this gets added right to your deed on the house. So you're good. So it'll be conforming going forward. Okay. All right. Have a good one. Thanks. Good evening. All right, and next item on the agenda is other business or new business. Is there any other business or new business from committee members? Okay, I will add one, just for the record. I will not actually be here next month's meeting, so we'll assign a vice chair on that. Was there any new business, other business from staff? Okay, seeing none, then I'll look for a vote to adjourn. Okay, now hands go up really fast. I saw Ken first, so I'll assume Ken seconded by Amanda. I'll go straight to a vote. Let's go again. Okay, vote's been carried. Meeting is now adjourned at 8:56 p.m.